Hi, I'm Shaun Garrity.
And I'm Mandy Matthews, and you're watching MediaPlex Special. Today we're taking a look back on all of our hard work. There are 6 of us in the Media Convergence program at St. Clair College, and Shaun and I went through and selected a few stories to highlight. In our top stories, Canadian dollar is decreasing. TJ Laramie is back from his first professional fight in Japan, and water levels are higher than usual for the Great Lakes.
But first, a Halifax woman had to leave her city because of drugs and prostitution. Addiction almost took her life, and I covered this gripping tale of the drug trade last week.
Some people see bridges as a chance to leave. One woman saw a bridge as a different way to escape.
Really had a desire to jump off that bridge. I just wanted to end the nightmare that I had been living. I was a junkie, I was a prostitute, I was a high school dropout, I was a crackhead, I was a thief. I was just broken.
Jade Piper from Halifax knew if she didn't leave the drug life and come to Windsor, she might not ever stop using.
I was doing, pretty much anything and everything, but my drugs of choice were mainly crack cocaine and opiates. So hydromorphine, pretty much synthetic heroin. And I was injecting. I had been injecting drugs for about 2.5 years.
To pay for narcotics, Piper says she resorted to prostitution. She brought me to the local grocery store and explained what else she was doing to support her habit.
Well, myself and whoever I was with, we would just kind of walk into a store much like this one and know what we were going for already. We would already have like buyers lined up for it, and we just kind of walk in, fill up either canvas bags or shopping carts with merchandise and walk out as quickly as possible.
After being fed up with her current situation, she arrived in Windsor and made a promise to herself that it was time to change. It was time to rebuild that bridge she almost jumped off of.
I got in contact with the intake coordinator at the Windsor Life Center, and I made the commitment to enter the program, and I signed up for a 12-month residential faith-based drug and alcohol treatment program.
The Windsor Life Center, which is located directly behind the Windsor Christian Fellowship, is what Piper says started her road to recovery.
Pretty evident that she was going to have some struggles. She didn't like authority, she didn't like being told what she could and couldn't do, but she knew that she wanted to get clean.
Founder of Windsor Life, Catherine Shimatero, says the program has tripled its intake.
So we're up in our numbers. It doesn't sound like a lot of numbers, but it's a lot of work involved in working with the women with the types of problems that they have. We're getting women mostly from the streets, from the sex trade, out of jail.
Local vets are warning pet owners of a deadly disease that has killed several canines in the area. This sickness could leave your dog dead within a week from the first symptoms. We paid a visit to all the local vets to find out more.
This is Dinero, a tanned 85-pound, happy, loving family dog.
This is a dog that sleeps in my bed, lays on my couch. He's treated like one of my kids.
Kim Ribberty says Dinero was always a content and playful dog. Then one day, he stopped being himself. That's when Ribberty knew something was seriously wrong with her pet.
The next day, he don't want to go outside, he wouldn't get up, and he looked like just sad, like sickly, and late, like really lethargic, laying around, didn't want to do nothing. He looked like he lost like weight in 24 hours. I'm thinking, what the heck's going on?
After realizing he was not getting better, Ribberty waited a day and then took her pooch to the closest veterinary animal clinic. That same night, Dinero took a turn for the worse. The 7-year-old Pitbull died of leptospirosis just 2 days after his first symptoms.
You don't know, like, you just think it's like, okay, he's, upset stomach. I didn't think anything of it. Like, I wouldn't think if I would have known he was that critically sick, I'd have took him in immediately.
Here in Ribberty's backyard is where she says her dog contracted the fatal infection.
Figured was, a rat had been out here, peed. He'd been out like right afterwards.
Leptospirosis is a bacterial infection that is transmitted through the urine of an infected animal, and it is usually passed to them from rats and mice. A.J. Kaler is a veterinarian at the Central Animal Hospital in Windsor, and he is shocked at how many dogs have died from the deadly virus.
Oh my God, last year lots in Windsor, lots. I will say 40 to 50.
Kaler also says there are several ways you can keep your dog from contracting this bacterial killer. But some people are just not following the precautions.
Vaccination is really good for them, it prevents them. But if you can prevent, prevention is always better than cure.
The shelter operations manager at the Humane Society in Windsor is familiar with lepto and says dogs are not the only ones that can be carriers.
It can be spread to humans, so you will notice if you're treating your dog that the veterinary staff will wear gloves and protective gear.
Lepto is a dog-killing virus, and the best way to prevent this from happening to your dog is to get them vaccinated. Vaccinations can run from $80 to $100, and veterinarians are urging pet owners, if you feel that your dog could be sick, you need to bring them to the closest animal clinic immediately. For MediaPlex News, I'm Shaun Garrity.
In the first week of March, the Canadian dollar was declining. Since then, the dollar hasn't budged. Second-year reporter Justin Prince took to the streets of Windsor to find out how it is affecting the economy.
The Canadian dollar is expected to drop to its lowest point since November 2007, but according to some, the lower Canadian dollar is a good thing for the Windsor economy. Since February 2014, the value of the Canadian loonie has decreased by more than 10%. As of February 25th, that same value is less than 80 cents US and has been that way since January 29th. As well, banking and investment corporations are projecting the value to go as low as 69 cents US. But Windsorites say the lower Canadian dollar is not all doom and gloom.
Well, actually, it's good for us. I'm a tool maker, so most of our tooling from our manufacturers goes stateside. So it's a bonus for us.
My wife doesn't go shopping across border as much because it's now more expensive to go across border, and because the oil prices have dropped. Even it's not worth to go across the border as much for gas anymore. So if people will stay home and buy in Canada, it'll be better for all of us.
Matt Marchand, the president and CEO of the Windsor Regional Chamber of Commerce, agrees. He says the lower Canadian dollar could mean big profits for local businesses and the tourism industry.
Well, on balance, it's a positive for the Windsor, Essex, and Southwestern Ontario for that matter. The low dollar will encourage people to come over from the U.S. to Windsor, Essex. At the same time, it will make our manufacturing sector more competitive. It will help our exports. And at the same time, it will have a dampening effect on an issue here of cross-border shopping, which will be helpful to our local retailers.
Now, the value of this one small coin, of course, can change over time, whether you spend it on a loaf of bread or a bottle of water, and could also not mean that much for some. But for Windsor and Essex County, the value of this coin can mean more business in the near future for the region. For MediaPlex News Now, I'm Justin Prince.
Shaun, do you remember the one week the Windsor Fire and Rescue Services were so busy? They had multiple fires in the 800 block of Assumption Street and a roof fire on the top of Windsor Assembly Plant.
At this moment in time, we've got fire prevention officer coming down to investigate the fire. We also have contacted the Ontario Fire Marshal's office. And until I get some conclusive evidence, the fire is considered to be undetermined.
The Assumption Street fire caused $500,000 in damage and is determined to be intentionally set. The shooting in front of 7-Eleven on Langlois and Wyandotte hasn't stopped people from still going there, but the two shooters are still being sought out by police. Windsor police say 4 men got into an altercation and 2 victims who were shot offered conflicting accounts of what happened.
Obviously, when there's a crime involving a firearm, it's very serious and we take it very seriously, and like I said, our major crimes unit was out on this, and they're investigating and looking into it the best they can, looking at video surveillance, looking at a lot of different things.
Coming up later on in the show, I will have your full weather forecast.
But first, the Toronto Rock forward Brett Hickey was in the studio and sat down with Christian Bouchard for this segment of 3 Minutes with.
Hi, I'm Christian Bouchard, and today I'm sitting down with forward of the Toronto Rock, Brett Hickey. Brett, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So if you don't mind, just let everyone know how you first started playing the game of lacrosse.
Well, just like any other kid, my parents, threw me in a bunch of sports as a young kid, and I think my first summer playing lacrosse, I was 4 years old and was also playing t-ball, and lacrosse is the one that stuck, and it's kind of been hockey and lacrosse all growing up, and that's kind of how I got into it, and I stayed in it, so I loved it that much where it was all I really did.
You had a great junior B lacrosse career. Started off at just a tender age of 15, and it seems like ever since you just absolutely no problem scoring goals. Matter of fact, 146 games, racked up 418 points. Phenomenal. So looking back on that, what led you to that kind of success?
I had a lot of good mentors growing up. Starting at a young age, you're around 20, 21-year-old men, and that plays a huge role on a young kid, and those guys shaped my career kind of thing. So a lot of the guys that were on that team still talk to me today, and it kind of just stemmed from being around that environment for 6 years. Not a lot of guys get to spend 6 years with the same program or the same junior team. You move up or move down, or you kind of move on or kind of thing. But I was lucky enough to spend 6 years in my hometown playing for my hometown team, and ended up leading to some success. I had some great players around me. It's if you get that, you have that kind of success, other guys are doing their job too, right?
So currently you're playing with the Toronto Rock, leading goal scorer for the team. Just describe what it feels like to kind of live that dream and not only play for the team that you loved growing up, but being one of the better players, and now kids are looking up to you and as a role model and stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely, like you said, it's a dream come true, right? It's talk about any sport. If you're a tennis player, if you're a basketball player, you grew up watching a team, following certain players, and I'm able to live that. For me, it was lacrosse, and I grew up watching the Colin Doyles and Josh Sandersons, and watching the Toronto Rock as a young kid, and that's who I get to play with.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Guys, Brett will return back home this Friday, take on the Roughnecks. So thank you. I've been your host, Christian Bouchard, and this has been 3 Minutes with forward of the Toronto Rock, Brett Hickey.
One of the nation's top quarterback prospects has joined the Lancer family. Liam Putt signed on the 2015 season. Putt somehow always knew he would end up at the University of Windsor, and Mandy Matthews took to the field in the middle of winter.
As one Lancer graduates, a new great is born.
In February of last year, 2014, I was the offensive coordinator for the U18 national team, and he was my quarterback. So that was really when we first really worked together.
Since he was 15 years old, Liam Putt knew he would attend an Ontario university. After winning a high school challenge worth $10,000 of scholarship money, Putt continued to succeed.
Obviously, you want the best you can get, but anybody who's going to work hard and be a part of the team, contribute, we'll take them here.
A native of Caledonia, Ontario, Putt is a provincial high school champ and a member of the OFC's Hamilton Hurricanes. Although Lancer football head coach Joe D'Amore says he likes to keep his team filled with local guys, Putt is one player who plans to stand out.
We don't need the best player in the country, at that position. Obviously, if you can get someone to play at that level, it'll benefit you.
4 quarterbacks will be throwing for this year's starting position, but Coach D'Amore says he is thrilled to be adding a quarterback with Putt's caliber to the lineup.
For us, it was very important to bring in someone young that could at least push them early.
It's a challenge for a rookie, no matter how good you are. I experienced it myself. It's very challenging to play at this level just because the speed of play and the quality of the players you're playing against.
Putt did not respond in time for comment, but after signing, he tweeted out a picture with Coach D'Amore saying he was excited to start the journey. Mandy Matthews, MediaPlex, News Now.
To be an MMA fighter, you have to be a great wrestler, boxer, and grappler. 17-year-old TJ Laramie is a 2-time world champion who just came back from winning the Fight Exchange reality TV show in Japan. I had the chance to sit down with Laramie and let him tell me his story.
I'm TJ Laramie. I'm 17 years old, fighting out of MTC in Windsor, Ontario. Fighting to me is a place where I feel like I can control everything that goes on around me. I feel safe and truly at peace in the ring.
Really, during a fight, I never show emotions really too much during a fight because emotions will get the better of your technique and everything else. You're angry, you get a lot more tired. Really, like, I'm pretty blank-minded when I'm in there. I'm just, it's a lot of reaction. You know, I'm listening to my corner, say any tips they got, like, while I'm fighting. If they say, like, oh, throw a right hand, or he's open for this, you know. I'm listening to that kind of stuff, but other than that, I'm pretty deaf, you know. And my mind's, like, just a white chalkboard. I'm almost never more tired than the other guy, you know what I mean? So I know I'm in control of the fight from the beginning to the end. I know I'm in control. I'm winning every way possible. I've never really been in a situation where I've been like down and I have to come back really. Usually I know how to pace myself throughout a match, so I'm not really ever tired. But if that situation ever occurred where I was beat and tired in the 4th round, all I'm thinking about is 2 more rounds to go, you know? Just take it round by round, just try to win every round. You're at that point where you want to give up and you have to go farther. That's the difference between an average athlete and a great athlete. 5 years, hopefully I'll be holding a UFC belt somewhere.
This morning, I woke up with frost on my windows once again. Please, Mandy, tell me it's warming up.
Well, today we are expected to be above normal temperatures for this time of year. You definitely won't need that winter jacket, let's just say that. Today, mainly sunny, increasing cloudiness this afternoon, wind coming from the southwest at 20 kilometers later on. The high will be about 15 degrees Celsius, but more like 9 if you're planning to go anywhere near Lake Erie today. The UV index is high as well, so sunglasses may be necessary. Tonight, cloudy with a chance of showers, periods of rain or a drizzle beginning before morning. Fog patches as well before sunrise tomorrow, and with the wind tonight, the temperature will drop to a low of 7. It may be a tricky drive in to tomorrow as well. The rain should end around noon and then stay mainly cloudy for the rest of the day. And the wind from today is changing directions tomorrow and picking up to 40 kilometers an hour coming from northeast. A high of 9. Shaun?
All right, I'll bring my umbrella tomorrow. Do you struggle with anxiety or stress? If you do, then Evan Mathias will show you how to relax with music therapy.
Hi, I'm Evan Mathias, and I'm joined today by a 4th-year music therapy student at the University of Windsor, Amber McLeod. She works at a local hospital doing music therapy classes for people with mental disabilities or anxiety or depression and things like that. Amber, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
So for those who don't know, what is music therapy?
Yeah, a lot of misconceptions about what music therapy is. So I would define it as the trained and the clinical application of music used in music therapy interventions in order to reach therapeutic goals. So it's purposeful, it's measurable, and documentable, the progress that we're working on towards a final goal.
So what kinds of music do you usually use in your classes? What seems to work?
Yeah, there would be a huge spectrum of things I would use, so I don't pick a genre or a style. I kind of go with what I see suits the situation best, and that looks very different for a lot of people. I would say the primary mode of music that I use is music making. So I would participate in music making with the client that I was working with or with the group that I was working with.
Okay, so we have a couple of djembes here today.
Yeah.
What are you going to demonstrate for us?
Yeah, so I call this having a drumming conversation, and that is I might use this with somebody who has difficulty communicating verbally. So for example, I worked with an 8-year-old little guy before, and he had a lot of behavioral issues, but had a hard time communicating and a hard time sharing anything. And so we had this drumming conversation. It was just so interesting how much expression and how much emotion and communication and dialogue that could happen between us through the drums that wasn't happening verbally. And so that was really significant. So I can demonstrate that with you today.
All right, let's get started.
Yeah. All right, so first you'll want to tip the drum away from you so the bottom is open, so you'll get a better sound out of it. We got this bass sound. You want to try the bass? Good, yeah, we have a tap on the rim. Yeah, just giving you some ideas what we can work with. There's this sound. Yeah. And
And
so,
do you get different reactions for each one of these sounds depending on your client and who you're working for?
yeah,
or
for
working
sure.
with?
I mean, like innately, each sound is different. Like would never be considered an angry sound. It's naturally calming, or could be seen as sad. So there is innate qualities in each sound. Yeah.
All right, so let's get started.
Yeah, so in a normal conversation, there's some turn taking. So I think that will happen naturally as we converse through the drums. But don't be afraid to interrupt, because that happens sometimes if that's what you feel you need to say. Don't be afraid to repeat what I say, or I might repeat back what you say, just like we would in a conversation, or say something new and contradict what I have to say as we have this conversation. So
All right.
why don't you go ahead and start us off with something to say.
Okay, so that's kind of what a drum talk or a drum conversation would look like. So what kind of emotions do you draw from that?
I know, depending on, I guess, what the client gives, so I can give some observations of what I had during our conversation. If you have any observations, please share. Yeah, so I sort of felt in that one that I was leading you a little bit, and so you would sort of imitate what I say, and if I got louder, you would often get louder in return and kind of match me, and if I got quieter, that was kind of you to match me and not like contradict and want to say something different. So yeah, there was some kind of like harmony and kind of equality in our playing, whereas some people might have really contradicting things to say to me, or somebody that was really angry would say something that is conflicting to what I was saying on the drum. So those are just some observations. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today, Amber.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm Evan Mathias, and this has been what music therapy looks like with Amber McLeod.
Last month marked the first death of a Canadian soldier in the U.S.-led coalition against ISIS. The Department of National Defense says Canadian Armed Forces Sergeant Andrew Joseph Doran was killed in action when Iraq Kurdish forces mistakenly opened fire on Doran's unit. A week later, CBC reported his special operations colleagues never returned fire.
Although it doesn't look like it outside, spring is coming, and with that comes warmer weather. The ice has been melting, and with the recent rainfalls, the water is rising. This comes from the National Oceans and Atmospheric Administration, and people are seeing the effects. I took a drive into Lakeshore and did not expect what I saw. A little extra water in a huge lake may not seem like a big deal to most, but in Lakeshore, it is an awakening experience.
He lost his, and there's a whole bunch of those piles of ice that are gone. When that stuff starts to move, nothing stops it.
The Great Lake waters are ranging from 25 to 50 centimeters above what they were this time last year. But predicting lake level conditions is not an exact science, says Windsor Port Authority CEO David Cree.
Depend on the amount of rain we get this spring, how quickly the snow and ice melts up in the northern area, Lake Superior in particular.
Current water levels have risen to higher than 175 meters. 2 years ago, the average levels almost hit a dangerous low for cargo shipping.
Water. So the parkway would have been more expensive, which obviously trickles down into people's taxes. We would have had negative environmental effects, and so those are the kinds of things you see happen if shipping were to be, for whatever reason, unavailable.
Although it doesn't look like it here at the Detroit River, Lake St. Clair's water levels have risen marginally by 1.5% since March 1st. Now, this is nothing to be concerned about, the Windsor Port Authority says, for homeowners or boaters.
I'm concerned I can't get my boat in and out. I like the water levels high. It's more dangerous. Like just yesterday, the ice started to move, almost took my dock out because the lake levels are higher now.
The shipping season will be starting the first week of April as opposed to the usual last week of March. As for Mark Waters, he'll be waiting till the end of May to start boating.
It sure is neat to watch it.
Mandy Matthews, MediaPlex, News Now. The constant upgrading in technology has made the hiss of a record player a nostalgic sound. Collecting classic albums has become an increasingly popular hobby and also a profitable one. Rare records can sell for anywhere between $100 to $5,000. Matt Recker took a stroll down memory lane with his first record, George Carlin Class Clown.
When the needle hits the groove of a vinyl record, most people hear the hiss and the pop, but some hear a different sound. Some people collect vintage records for the fun and the nostalgia, but it can also be a moneymaker.
The first one I have is one I picked up in Florida years ago. It's Alice in Chains' self-titled album. They call it Tripod. So I picked it up for $20 and now it's selling for about $150.
Many valuable finds are discovered when buying bulk lots of records. Last month, Hicks and some of his collector's friends bought 400 records, and everyone took turns picking out what they wanted. John Manuel made quite a profit.
Actually, the most valuable one I picked up was actually one that I picked out downstairs when we bought a lot. It was this old Canadian psychedelic band called The Spirit of Christmas, and it books for like $300.
Finds like these are big profit when it comes to buying records in bulk.
On the main body that we were doing the draft for was about $400, I believe.
Bulk lots aren't the only place you could find rarities. Local record shops like Dr. Disc in downtown Windsor are a great place to find hidden treasures.
Just keep coming into your favorite record store and digging through the bins, and you know, you won't miss out on any opportunities that way. You always can find some buried treasures.
Though Manuel and Hicks made some nice profit off of collecting records, they have similar reasons for their love of the classic format.
I like it because I like holding something tangible in my hand, and it's really fun to listen to.
It's tangible is the main reason for me. It's something to hold, something to lose yourself in.
Ever walked by Caesars Windsor, the large water fountain can be seen from blocks away. Shaun Garrity put together a creative video piece highlighting the architecture of the front of the building.
That's all the time we have for now. Tune in next week to see more of our local stories. I'm Shaun Garrity.
I'm Mandy Matthews. Thanks for watching.
MediaPlex News Now is a production of the St. Clair College Journalism Program.